You can feel it, can't you? That strange pressure in the air, that quiet pull in your chest. As if something, someone, is reaching for you across a distance you can't explain. If you're still separated from your twin flame in this final week of November, then listen closely. Because what's happening right now isn't random, and it isn't coincidence. It's part of a cosmic shift that most people never notice. But your soul can feel it, loudly. This is the week when timelines bend, when energy reorganizes itself, and when silent connections begin to stir beneath the surface. The universe is moving pieces you can't see. And if you're feeling restless, emotional, suddenly awakened, or even strangely peaceful, there's a reason. You're not imagining the signs. You're not misreading the synchronicities. You're not stuck. You are being aligned. What I'm about to share with you is not comfort. It's revelation. Because in this last stretch of November, something powerful is unfolding in your connection. Something that could only be activated through separation. So take a deep breath. Open your heart. And listen carefully. Because if you're hearing this right now, you were meant to. Let's begin. Before you ever met in this lifetime, before your eyes recognized what your soul already knew, a sacred agreement was made, what many call a soul contract. This contract wasn't written in words, but in vibration. It was a promise made between two souls who knew that their love, their purpose, and their evolution were intertwined long before this incarnation. You chose each other, not for comfort, but for transformation. You agreed to meet, to ignite, to awaken parts of each other that no one else could reach. And you agreed that separation would be part of the journey, not because it was a punishment, but because it was necessary for the remembrance of who you truly are. Soul contracts are never about ease, they're about evolution. Before entering the physical, both souls chose challenges that would activate awakening. You selected experiences that would stretch your heart, test your courage, and ultimately align you with your highest purpose. This wasn't done lightly. You knew that the connection would be powerful, fiery, and life-changing. You also knew that this intensity would push every unhealed part of you to the surface. And that is exactly why separation was woven into the divine plan. Not as an ending, but as an essential phase of spiritual initiation. Twin flame love is unlike any other love because it does not simply comfort, it cleanses. It enters your life like a mirror, revealing shadows you've avoided for lifetimes. It exposes fears you've buried deep within your being. It awakens dormant memories of your soul's ancient path. This level of love is not meant to soothe your wounds, it is meant to illuminate them so they can be healed. And intense love must go through intense cleansing. Without cleansing, the connection would collapse beneath the weight of old patterns, unresolved emotions, and spiritual debris. The fire of divine love burns away what is false so that both souls can rise in their truth. This is why separation is not a tragic accident, it is a planned catalyst. Before incarnating, both souls agreed that at the appointed time, space would be created between you. Not because you were unworthy of love, not because the connection failed, but because the separation would become the crucible that shapes you into who you were destined to become. It is during this part of the contract that your soul remembers its power. You learn independence, inner stability, emotional sovereignty, and spiritual clarity. The separation activates your awakening in ways union never could. So if you find yourself in this phase now, know this, nothing has gone wrong. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are living out a sacred chapter that your soul embraced long before your human mind understood its purpose. The separation you feel is not the breaking of the bond, it is the strengthening of your spirit. The universe is not pulling you apart, it is preparing you, refining you, and aligning you with the version of yourself that can sustain divine love. This was always part of the plan. And the love you share is not lost. It is becoming. One of the most profound and misunderstood aspects of a divine connection is the energetic mirror effect. Your counterpart isn't just someone you love, they are the reflection of the parts of yourself you have not yet healed, acknowledged, or embraced. This connection is designed to reveal, not to conceal. It illuminates the wounds you've carried silently, the beliefs you've accepted unconsciously, and the fears you've suppressed for lifetimes. When their behavior triggers something within you, it's not a sign of rejection, it's a sign of revelation. Every trigger is a message from your soul saying, "Look here. This needs your love." Twin flame energy functions like a spiritual mirror. When one soul carries an unresolved wound, the other reflects it, often without realizing they are doing so. Your counterpart does not trigger you to hurt you, they trigger you to heal you. The emotions that rise within you, anger, sadness, fear, longing, abandonment, are not created by them, they are awakened by them. They have always lived within you, tucked away in forgotten corners of the subconscious. This connection brings them to the surface so that they can finally be transformed. In this dynamic, emotional triggers become sacred indicators. They show you precisely where healing is required. Instead of judging the trigger, you are being asked to observe it. Instead of fighting the emotion, you are being guided to feel it. Every moment of intensity is the universe holding up a mirror and whispering, "This is where you free yourself." The discomfort is not punishment, it is purification. And as painful as these moments feel, they are the doorway to your greatest awakening. One of the defining qualities of the mirror effect is polarity. Where one twin avoids, the other overfeels. Where one shuts down emotionally, the other becomes hyper-attuned. Where one withdraws, the other wants to connect even more. This is an imbalance. It is energetic design. The avoidance in one twin highlights the emotional lack in the other. The overfeeling in one twin exposes where the counterpart has learned to numb themselves to survive. Both expressions are reflections of the same wound, simply manifested in opposite ways. Two sides of one soul, processing the same pain through different responses. This polarity is not a flaw in the connection, it is the mechanism that heals it. Each twin reflects what the other must integrate. The avoidant twin must learn to feel. The overfeeling twin must learn to release. The one who runs must face truth. The one who clings must stand in inner strength. As each soul evolves through the mirror, the energy between them slowly harmonizes. The extremes soften. The triggers lessen. The fear dissolves. What once felt like conflict becomes clarity. And this is where the magic happens. The reflection becomes the key to union. Union is not created by chasing, forcing, or controlling. It is created when both twins begin to embody the healed version of themselves that the mirror revealed. When the emotional extremes collapse into balance, the energy aligns. When the wounds are faced instead of avoided, the connection stabilizes. When the mirror is no longer frightening, but enlightening, the love can flow freely. So when you feel triggered, remember, this is not the end. This is the beginning of becoming whole. The mirror is not showing you what is wrong, it is showing you what is ready to be healed. And through that healing, union becomes not only possible, but inevitable. When the physical world grows quiet and communication stops, most people assume the connection has ended. But in a divine relationship, silence does not mean absence. In fact, it is often in the absence of physical interaction that the true connection begins to reveal itself. What your mind cannot see, your soul continues to feel. Energy does not stop simply because words have fallen away. It moves, speaks, responds, and intertwines in ways the physical world cannot explain. The connection between twin souls extends beyond form, beyond logic, beyond the limits of human understanding. Even in silence, energy continues to flow between you. Your emotions, your thoughts, your shifts in vibration, they all ripple through the bond like waves traveling across an infinite ocean. You may not speak in the physical, but communication continues in another dimension. When physical contact breaks, spiritual communication strengthens. This is why the connection feels alive even when nothing is happening externally. This is why you can sense them during the most unexpected moments. It is the soul reminding you that the physical is not the full story. Dreams become a sanctuary where the connection speaks freely. They appear vividly, almost tangibly, as if the soul is refusing to be silenced just because the mind is confused. Telepathic impressions, sudden emotions that aren't yours, thoughts that feel foreign, memories that surface without reason, become the true language between you. Synchronicities appear like cosmic breadcrumbs, repeated numbers, songs that echo your feelings, random phrases that mirror your thoughts, people saying the exact words your counterpart would say. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. They are the soul's way of keeping the connection alive on the conscious level. During separation, the heart chakra becomes the primary channel of communication. You may feel sudden warmth in your chest, a pull, a soft ache, or a surge of emotion without any logical explanation. This is not imagination, it is energetic resonance. The heart knows the truth long before the mind accepts it. In the quiet, your hearts speak to one another, sharing emotions, intentions, and healing in ways beyond words. Each heartbeat carries a message. Each intuitive nudge carries a memory. The heart does not forget what the soul has chosen. And even when your mind begins to doubt, the soul remains unwavering. Doubt belongs to the mind. Knowing belongs to the soul. Your mind questions, analyzes, fears, and resists. Your soul simply remembers. It remembers the connection, the purpose, the promise. This is why no matter how hard you try to detach mentally, the soul still whispers its truth. This connection cannot be forgotten because it does not live in the memory, it lives in the energy. So if your mind tells you it's over, but your soul tells you it's alive, trust the soul. The connection is operating on a plane your physical senses cannot perceive. Silence does not weaken it, it strengthens it. Distance does not diminish it, it deepens it. What is meant in energy cannot be broken in form. Beyond the physical, the connection continues, pure, eternal, and unmistakably real. When a divine connection enters your life, it does not simply touch your heart, it rewrites your entire existence. One of the most powerful yet painful phases of the twin flame journey is the collapse of old timelines. These timelines are not just past experiences. They are outdated identities, unconscious roles, emotional patterns, and karmic imprints that both twins have carried for lifetimes. Through separation, these old versions begin to dissolve, not because the connection is breaking, but because the connection is evolving. What once defined you no longer fits who you are becoming. In this sacred process, both twins experience a dissolution of old identities. The person you were before meeting your counterpart was shaped by survival, conditioning, wounds, and expectations. But a divine connection cannot survive in an identity built on fear. It requires authenticity. It demands purity. It calls forth the true self buried beneath all the layers you've gathered throughout your life. So the universe allows those outdated versions of you to crumble. You may feel lost, disoriented, or unlike yourself. But this is not destruction, it is emergence. The collapse is making space for who you were always meant to become. Separation serves as the sacred catalyst for breaking karmic cycles. When twins are together physically during the early stages, the intensity of the connection can actually amplify unhealed wounds. The attachment, fear of loss, abandonment trauma, or old relational patterns rise to the surface at once. Without separation, these karmic cycles would continue endlessly. But through distance, the universe creates a necessary pause, an energetic container where each twin is forced to confront their own shadows without projecting them onto the other. Old karmic loops, chasing, running, overgiving, emotional avoidance, begin to break down because there is no longer a familiar dynamic to feed them. This is why the old versions of each counterpart cannot reunite. The versions shaped by fear, ego, and survival instincts are not capable of sustaining a union built on divine truth. Those versions were necessary for learning, but they cannot carry the frequency of higher love. If the twins reunited prematurely, before clearing their cycles, they would simply recreate the same pain again and again. The universe does not allow divine unions to form from wounded identities. It requires both souls to rise before they can return. As the old timelines collapse, both twins are guided to rebuild from a new vibration. This rebuilding is not about changing external circumstances, it is about transforming internal alignment. The new vibration is built on self-worth instead of fear, sovereignty instead of insecurity, intuition instead of overthinking, and unconditional love instead of attachment. Each twin begins to reconstruct their life with a higher consciousness, making choices from the soul rather than from past wounds. Slowly, the new version of each twin takes shape, the version aligned with unity, peace, and emotional wholeness. And when the rebuilding is complete, reunion becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Because the connection can only sustain itself in truth. The collapse is not the end, it is the clearing. It is the universe preparing both souls for a union that is stable, sacred, and everlasting. In the divine connection, one of the most sacred yet unseen transformations takes place within the masculine energy. On the surface, it often appears as withdrawal, silence, or emotional distance. But behind that silence, a profound internal dismantling is occurring, one that the feminine rarely witnesses, yet one that completely reshapes the masculine soul. This is the process known as ego dissolution, and it is one of the most powerful spiritual awakenings a masculine can experience. For much of his life, the masculine has been taught to survive through pride, control, and emotional armor. He learned early on that vulnerability was dangerous, that emotions were a sign of weakness, and that strength meant maintaining composure at all costs. He was conditioned to suppress rather than express, to endure rather than feel, to perform rather than reveal. These layers of identity built a strong outer shell, but they also created emotional distance, not just from others, but from his own soul. When he encounters a divine feminine, this armor is pierced in a way he cannot explain. The connection activates emotions he never learned how to navigate. His instinct is to retreat back into old patterns of control and self-protection. But this time, those patterns no longer work. The love is too deep. The energy too strong. The connection too real. And so begins the internal conflict, his heart awakening while his conditioning fights to stay in control. Inside him, two forces pull in opposite directions. One part of him longs to surrender to the connection, to feel deeply, to open fully. This is the soul speaking. The other part clings to old beliefs, old fears, old versions of masculinity shaped by society, childhood, and unhealed trauma. This is the ego trying to survive. He finds himself caught between who he was taught to be and who he is becoming. And this conflict becomes unbearable. Eventually, he reaches a realization that changes everything. Emotional avoidance is not strength. It is fear. And fear has been the silent architect of his entire identity. He begins to see that shutting down did not protect him, it imprisoned him. That running from emotion only amplified the pain. That pushing away love did not make him independent, it made him lonely. These truths surface not as thoughts, but as awakenings. And with each revelation, the ego cracks just a little more. This breaking is not punishment, it is liberation. The ego dissolves so the soul can rise. Every moment of loneliness, every tear he hides in the dark, every surge of regret or nostalgia is not weakness, it is rebirth. He is not losing himself, he is shedding the layers that were never truly him. He is remembering who he was before the world told him who to be. Through this dissolution, he begins to feel again, not from fear but from truth. He becomes softer, not weaker, more open, not exposed, more present, not defensive. The silence that once separated him from love now becomes the space where his soul emerges. This is the masculine's sacred awakening. A breaking open that leads to rising. A surrender that becomes strength. A dissolution that reveals his true self, and ultimately, his readiness for divine love. There comes a moment in every sacred connection when the divine feminine begins to rise, quietly at first, then unmistakably, like dawn breaking through a long night. This rise is not about becoming stronger than the masculine, it is about becoming stronger within herself. It is a spiritual return to her essence, a remembrance of her true nature, and a reclamation of the power she once handed away out of fear, longing, or wounded love. Her rise is not loud or forceful. It is graceful, grounded, and deeply transformative. The first sign of her rising is the awakening of intuition. What once felt like confusion now becomes clarity. The same heart that once overthought, overfeared, or overgave begins to hear the quiet voice within, the voice that always knew the truth. She no longer searches for answers outside herself, because her inner knowing becomes louder than her doubt. Her intuition guides her steps, her choices, her energy. She begins to trust what she feels rather than what she fears, and this shift alone begins to elevate her entire vibration. Boundaries naturally follow this awakening. Instead of allowing her energy to be taken, drained, or misused, she begins to guard her light with wisdom. Boundaries are not walls, they are sacred doors. She decides what enters and what leaves her field. She stops apologizing for protecting her peace. She stops chasing validation or forcing clarity. She knows that what is meant for her will meet her where she stands, and she no longer lowers herself to match energies that can't rise. As she evolves, she learns the profound difference between leading emotionally and leading energetically. Emotional leadership is reactive, seeking reassurance from the outside world. Energetic leadership is sovereign, built on alignment, stability, and inner truth. She no longer tries to pull the masculine closer with emotion, she draws him through vibration. Her presence becomes stronger than her words. Her calm becomes more powerful than her longing. She leads not by pushing, pleading, or proving, but by simply being in her authentic frequency. This rise marks a shift from the wounded self to the highest self. The wounded feminine loved from fear, fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. The highest self loves from wholeness. She no longer tries to fix, save, or chase. She no longer defines herself by who stays or who leaves. She steps into her purpose, her passion, her spiritual gifts. She invests in her growth, her healing, her joy. She becomes magnetic without trying to be. In this state, she embodies her truth rather than fighting for it. The greatest transformation of all is her shift from attachment to embodiment. Attachment clings, grasps, and waits. Embodiment radiates. Attachment says, "I need you to validate my worth." Embodiment says, "My worth is already whole." She becomes the frequency of love rather than the seeker of it. She holds the connection lightly, lovingly, without fear. And in this vibration, she becomes irresistible, not because she demands union, but because she embodies the very energy union requires. This is the rise of the divine feminine. Not hardening, but softening into strength. Not chasing, but attracting through truth. Not waiting, but becoming. A woman who rises into divine power rises into herself, and from that place, all things fall into alignment. One of the most mysterious and beautiful aspects of a twin flame connection is the way it mirrors the principles of quantum entanglement. In quantum physics, two particles that were once connected remain linked, even when separated by vast distances. A change in one particle is instantly reflected in the other. This is not metaphor, it is resonance. And twin flames operate with the same spiritual truth. You and your counterpart are not just connected emotionally, you are entangled energetically, spiritually, and multidimensionally. No distance, silence, or separation can undo that bond. Twin flame energy behaves like a pair of quantum mirrors. When one shifts, the other feels it. When one rises, the other is pulled upward. When one resists, the other feels the energetic blockage. This is why you sense their emotions even when there is no physical contact. Why you wake up with sudden sadness that isn't yours, or joy that appears from nowhere. Why you feel a pull in your heart, a heaviness in your chest, or a wave of longing that cannot be explained. These sensations are not imagination, they are transmission. Soul-to-soul communication that transcends the limits of form. The emotional changes in one twin are instantly registered by the other. This is not because of obsession or codependency. It is because at a soul level, you are still operating as one energetic unit. When the feminine steps into strength, the masculine feels a sudden lightness that encourages him to move forward. When the masculine enters fear or avoidance, the feminine senses the energetic shutdown. When one clears a wound, the other begins to feel the shift in their own emotional landscape. You are not just separate individuals, you are connected frequencies adjusting to one another in real time. This is also why the masculine feels the feminine's energetic shifts so powerfully. The feminine energy is naturally more intuitive, receptive, and emotionally expressive. When she rises, heals, or releases a fear, her vibration changes rapidly. This shift echoes instantly through the energetic cord that binds the two. The masculine, who is often less conscious of his emotions, experiences these shifts as sudden restlessness, longing, or awakening. He may not understand why, but his soul recognizes the movement. Her healing becomes his activation. Her surrender becomes his awakening. Her peace becomes his path forward. Union, therefore, is not a physical reunion, it is a vibrational one. Physical union is simply the final expression of an energetic alignment that has already occurred. Twin flames do not come together because circumstances allow it. They come together because their energy has harmonized. Because their souls have risen into the same frequency. Because the lessons have been learned, the wounds have been cleared, and the vibrations have met in the same space. Union is not created by force, longing, or waiting, it is created by resonance. So when you feel the pull, the shift, the ache, or the surge of emotion, trust it. You are experiencing the quantum truth of your connection. Distance cannot break it. Silence cannot weaken it. Time cannot erase it. You are entangled beyond the physical realm, dancing in the same field of light. And when your vibrations finally align, the universe will bring you together, not as two halves searching for completion, but as two whole beings recognizing their eternal oneness. When a twin flame connection activates, the universe begins restructuring both lives in ways that can feel abrupt, confusing, and overwhelming. What may appear as chaos on the surface is actually divine order unfolding. The universe starts removing everything, people, relationships, careers, environments, that no longer align with the soul contract you agreed to before incarnation. This clearing is not a loss, it is a recalibration. It is the dismantling of timelines that no longer match the vibration of who you are becoming. Often, these changes feel uncomfortable because the human mind clings to familiarity. But the soul knows when something has expired. A relationship may suddenly fall apart, a job may feel impossible to stay in, friendships may dissolve naturally, or a living situation may shift without warning. These are not coincidences. They are divine interventions. You are being removed from what cannot support your expansion. Anything that drains your energy, limits your growth, or keeps you anchored to old versions of yourself must fall away. Your twin undergoes the same process, whether consciously or unconsciously. One of the most profound aspects of the twin flame journey is the way sudden life changes happen for both twins simultaneously, even when they aren't speaking or aware of each other's circumstances. You may experience an intense shift in your life at the very same time they are undergoing their own upheaval. Breakdowns, breakthroughs, sudden endings, unexpected beginnings, these events are synchronized because your souls are aligning at a higher level. What happens to one energetically impacts the other. You are clearing space together, even through silence. It's easy to mistake these dramatic changes as punishment, abandonment, or loss. But they are actually redirection. The universe is not hurting you, it is guiding you back to your path. When your vibration rises, anything misaligned with that vibration must fall away. This includes relationships built on codependency, careers rooted in survival instead of purpose, and environments that no longer nourish your expansion. You are being redirected toward your soul mission, your authentic identity, and your highest timeline. This redirection is especially essential in a twin flame connection because union cannot take place on a foundation that is unstable or untrue. Both twins must align with their purpose before they can align with each other. Your life must reflect your soul, not your wounds. The universe resets your path to ensure that when union happens, it is not distorted, fragile, or karmic. It is intentional, elevated, and spiritually aligned. As the universe rearranges your external life, it simultaneously realigns your internal world. You begin to feel a shift in your values, desires, and priorities. You may lose interest in old habits or roles you once identified with. You may feel a pull toward your spiritual gifts, soul calling, or deeper healing. All of this is preparation. The universe is synchronizing circumstances so that both twins can step into a life that matches the vibration of union. When everything around you seems to be falling apart, remember, it is falling into place. The clearing is not a setback, it is a sacred setup. Every ending is making space for a beginning that matches your soul contract and your future union. Trust the reset. It is the universe aligning your destiny. One of the most profound phases of a twin flame journey is the rebalancing of divine polarities. This is where both the feminine and masculine energies begin to shift out of their wounded expressions and rise into their divine forms. It is the phase where the connection stops being about longing, chasing, or running, and instead becomes a sacred harmonization of two energies that were never meant to dominate each other, but to complement one another. This rebalancing is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before fear reshaped your identity. For the divine feminine, this transformation is a return to calm sovereignty. In the early stages of the connection, she often leads with emotion, intuition, and nurturing. But when wounded, that same emotional depth can turn into overgiving, overfeeling, and overattaching. In rebalancing, her agency no longer looks like doing, it looks like being. She no longer tries to control the outcome, or hold the connection together through force. Instead, she becomes an anchor of inner peace. Her sovereignty is quiet but powerful. She trusts her path without demanding answers. She stands in her light rather than reaching for reassurance. And in that calmness, she becomes magnetic, not through effort but through essence. For the divine masculine, the shift is equally powerful. His natural qualities, direction, focus, structure, and action, are vital to the connection. But when wounded, these qualities turn into avoidance, emotional distance, or excessive control. In the rebalancing, his drive softens into emotional presence. He begins to feel instead of suppress. He starts to communicate instead of withdraw. He learns that strength is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to hold it. This presence does not weaken him, it expands him. Through silence, he begins to hear his own heart. Through stillness, he reconnects with his soul. This emotional awakening becomes the bridge through which union can eventually flow. As both energies rise into their higher expressions, something extraordinary happens. The connection stabilizes. It no longer feels chaotic, unpredictable, or overwhelming. Instead, it becomes grounding, supportive, and naturally aligned. The feminine brings intuition, compassion, and softness, but now with boundaries, clarity, and sovereignty. The masculine brings protection, action, and stability, but now with openness, empathy, and truth. These qualities no longer clash, they harmonize. And here lies the deeper truth. Merging happens not through romance, but through balance. Twin flames do not unite because they miss each other, they unite because they have evolved into versions of themselves that can sustain higher love. Romance is the expression, but balance is the foundation. Without energetic balance, union cannot hold. But when balance emerges, union becomes inevitable. This rebalancing is not a fairy tale ending, it is a spiritual awakening. It is the merging of yin and yang, intuition and action, heart and presence. Through this balance, both twins become whole within themselves, and from that wholeness, they rise into sacred partnership. So if you feel your energies shifting, if you feel calmer, clearer, more present, or more grounded, know this, the rebalancing has begun. And once balance is restored, love flows effortlessly, guided not by fear, but by the divine truth that was always meant to unite you. There comes a moment in the twin flame journey when the energy begins to shift in a way that is undeniable. It is subtle yet powerful, quiet yet unmistakably divine. This is the preunion phase, the energetic alignment that occurs before anything physical unfolds. The universe begins to send signals, not as reassurance, but as confirmation that the journey is nearing a point of completion. These signs are not random. They are sacred markers on the path that your soul has been walking towards since before you were born. One of the first signs of preunion is accelerated synchronicity. Numbers such as 1111, 222, 555, or 717 appear with increased frequency, not because you seek them, but because they seek you. Dreams become vivid, sometimes feeling more real than waking life. Telepathic exchanges intensify. You think of them, and they message someone close to them. You feel a shift, and later discover they were going through something intense at the same moment. These synchronicities are not coincidences. They are the universe whispering, "You are approaching alignment." The external world begins to mirror the internal connection in ways you cannot ignore. Another powerful sign is the ability to feel their emotions as if they were your own. This is not imagination or wishful thinking. It is energetic resonance. The closer you move toward union, the stronger the soul connection becomes. You may feel sudden waves of emotion, joy, sadness, longing, confusion, that have no source in your own reality. Hours later, you might sense clarity or warmth that feels like a response. This emotional telepathy is your higher self communicating with theirs. You are not feeling for them, you are feeling with them. The energetic veil grows thinner, and your hearts begin to beat in the same rhythm once again. Perhaps the most profound pre-union sign is the emergence of sudden peace. The urge to chase dissolves. The fear of loss disappears. The anxiety that once controlled your mind slowly fades into stillness. This peace is not indifference, it is alignment. It is the knowing that you do not need to grasp for what is already destined. You no longer question the connection or its purpose. You simply trust. This peace is the soul's final preparation, the energy that allows the universe to bring the two of you together without resistance. It is the energetic confirmation that both twins have surrendered to divine timing. As these signs appear more frequently, the universe begins signaling that alignment is nearly complete. Opportunities open effortlessly. Old karmic ties dissolve. You are drawn toward new environments, habits, or people who reflect your highest path. You begin to feel that something is shifting beyond the surface, something destined, something inevitable, something sacred. Even if nothing has changed physically, the energy tells a different story. The universe is aligning circumstances, clearing obstacles, and preparing both souls for a union that is stable, healed, and divinely orchestrated. Pre-union is not just a phase, it is a frequency. It is the vibration of readiness. When synchronicities intensify, emotions intertwine, peace descends, and signs flood your path, know this. Union is not approaching. It is already unfolding. You are simply stepping into what has always been written in your soul. As we reach the end of this transmission, take a moment to notice how you feel. The heaviness may have softened. The confusion may have cleared. And somewhere deep within, a quiet knowing may have awakened. Because if you're still separated in this final week of November, it is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're standing at the edge of alignment. The universe is moving in ways your eyes can't see, but your soul can absolutely feel. If this message resonated with you, if it helped you understand what's happening beneath the silence, or if it simply reminded you that you're not alone in this journey, I want you to claim that truth below. Comment the word alignment in the comments. Let the universe see your intention. Let your energy speak louder than your fears. And if you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next transmission. Because there is so much more coming for you. More clarity, more guidance, more awakening. Thank you for being here. For listening with your heart. And for walking this path with such courage. Until next time. Keep trusting the timing. Keep listening to your soul. And remember, your story is far from over. I'll see you in the next message.